that which is the most frightening, most dangerous, most repelling, grotesque, and absurd is not always immediately evident. Often the darkest and most deranged of abominations, threats, and evil do not exist within the physical realm, but in that of the mind. The mind is that plane of existence that can bring forth into motion chaos. A nightmare made flesh. It can bring something unnatural, screaming into this world. If there is something in this universe that is beyond us, greater than us, it would be wise to leave their domain to them, and not try to mimic them with feeble attempts at being equal to, or even greater than them. For man to play God is as old as science itself. But when things thought to only exist within the realm of science fiction become horror, and a man tries to create another man only to inevitably create a monster, one must ask, who in fact is the monster?
Frankenstein, released in 1931, was a film so grand in its terror and so shocking for its audiences.
How do you do?
It actually began with a warning.
Mr. Carl Lemley feels it would be a little unkind to present this picture without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image, without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you.
A true testimony to the legacy of what a unique and daring genre horror is.
Now's your chance to, well, we've warned you.
Directed by early horror master James Whale, and starring Boris Karloff in arguably the most infamous monster role of all time. A story of science derailed by madness. A tragic tale of a man who is unknowingly bringing about his own downfall in the name of what he thinks is good.
You never wanted to look beyond the clouds and the stars, or to know what causes the trees to bud, and what changes the darkness into light?
A story of monsters, both in living flesh and in dead, where heroes become villains.
You have created a monster and it will destroy you. I made him with these hands, and with these hands I'll destroy him.
And where walking terrors become hapless victims. The man made of dead tissue never asked to be reborn into a non-understanding world. The creator, Dr. Henry Frankenstein, tampered with a domain that was never meant for his mortal hands to breach.
A dead man, waiting to live again in a body I made with my own hands. With my own hands.
Lives caught within the fray are ruined, torn apart.
Who are you? I'm Maria. Will you play with me?
Lives are lost.
No, you're hurting me! No!
Lives are destroyed. All in the name of a so-called science that's only ambition was to do the most unnatural thing imaginable. Bring life from death. Give it a life with emotions and understanding, but no name. The creature, the experiment, the monster, Frankenstein's monster.
Shut off the light.
Tonight's scene exemplifies a classic and perfect example of what true horror is.
Sit down, please.
Fear,
And your proof? Tonight you shall have your proof.
confusion, life, death,
And you really believe that you can bring life to the dead? That body is not dead. It has never lived. I created it. I made it with my own hands from the bodies I took from graves, from the gallows, anywhere. Go and see for yourself.
monsters, insanity, the natural and the unnatural, the sanctuary of logic clashing with the polarizing anxieties of the unknown.
You're crazy! Crazy, am I? We'll see whether I'm crazy or not.
All bleeding down the canvas of the gothic imagery of an old crumbling and dilapidated castle on a stormy night. One of cinema's most classic and memorable moments, the creation of the monster, where Dr. Frankenstein quotes two of the most famous words ever put to sound, horror or not. In this scene, one man, crazy, and three very sane spectators.
One man crazy, three very sane spectators.
Or so it would appear. Frankenstein is about to prove his genius as a man of science, but in doing so, reveal his desire to be above both man and science. To be, in his own words, God. The nature of the scene is absolute poetic horror. Thunder rolls, lightning flashes, beacons and equipment beyond the average man's understanding run amok in a dungeon-like laboratory. A mad scientist and his loyal hunchbacked assistant begin to birth an unwanted creature into the world, all being witnessed by skeptics and protesters consisting of Dr. Frankenstein's own fiancée, as well as a close family friend and even his own professor. Beautiful black and white cinematography glistens over the unforgettable spectacle as the two madmen raise the deceased being onto the castle roof to be struck by lightning. The audiences in 1931 must have been dead silent beneath the mayhem of the screaming laboratory and storm. Then, after the body descends, the climax of this nightmare does not give us the comforting promise of waking and screaming, but it only foreshadows the doom that is to come, both for the new living monster and for the good doctor.
It's moving. It's alive. It's moving. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God. Quite a good scene, isn't it?
The scene is absolute classic cinema and has been cemented in the minds of creators and visionaries and aspirers. This scene gives me chills to this very day, every single time I see it. This scene gave life to quite possibly the most infamous moment in all of horror history. Even those who have never seen it can often quote it, as well as describe its imagery in detail. A true testament to the magic seeped into every moment of it, from the unforgettable imagery, to the icons that brought it to life, to the vision of director James Whale, to the still relevant controversy of its themes and subject matter. This scene is immortalized in greatness and will forever remain alive.
To this day, when I introduce people to vintage, classic horror or monster movies, this is very often the very first moment I show them. For without this incredible scene, and the incredible movie that follows after, horror, and even science fiction, would be a very different place.